Perhaps you have not collapsed, yet your body whispers. Thick waistline, after-meal sleepiness, brain fog, stubborn weight. These may be the quiet alarm bells of metabolic syndrome. This video invites you into the gentle world of the glucose goddess method, a way to tame blood sugar swings without harsh diets. Let us walk together through science and story and rediscover a calmer, more stable body and mind. Please consult your physician for any personal medical decisions. Jessie Inchauspe, the author of The Glucose Goddess Method, did not begin as a wellness guru, but as someone confused by her own fatigue and mood swings. With a background in biochemistry, she wore a glucose monitor and watched the hidden roller coaster in her blood. Her mission became simple: translate complex science into gentle habits anyone can try. Her method is not a strict religion, but a map to steady energy. Always ask your doctor before changing treatments. Metabolic syndrome is like a storm forming slowly over calm water. High waist circumference, elevated blood pressure, high fasting glucose, abnormal lipids. Each cloud may appear small, yet together they raise the risk of diabetes, heart disease, and more. The Glucose Goddess Method does not replace medical care. It offers everyday tools that may help calm that storm. Think of this video as a lantern, not the road itself, but a light to help you see your next step. Imagine a tiny roller coaster inside your blood vessels. Each time you eat refined carbohydrates or sugar alone, the cart rushes up, your glucose spikes. Minutes or hours later, it crashes down, leaving you tired, hungry, and irritable. For many with metabolic syndrome, this happens silently, day after day. The Glucose Goddess Method focuses not only on how much sugar you eat, but on how sharply your glucose rises and falls. Managing the shape of the curve can be as powerful as counting grams. Scientific studies show that repeated glucose spikes can increase inflammatory markers, encourage fat storage, especially around the abdomen, and tire your insulin-producing cells. Over time, this can contribute to insulin resistance, a core element of metabolic syndrome. Think of spikes as tiny sparks landing on dry leaves. One may go out, but thousands build a fire. The Glucose Goddess Method asks, what if we reduce those sparks each day, not with punishment, but with smart, kind strategies? If you live with metabolic symptoms, you may have blamed yourself. I am weak, I have no willpower. Yet glucose science tells a different story. Spikes can trigger hunger hormones and cravings, making you feel compelled to keep eating. Your body is not your enemy. It is following biochemical signals. In this method, you are not scolded. You are a scientist of your own life, gently experimenting with habits to see what helps. For personal diagnosis or medication, please consult your doctor. Picture a typical day. You wake up tired, skip breakfast, then rush with a sweet coffee and pastry. Glucose surges, you feel briefly energetic, then crash before lunch, craving more quick sugar. Afternoon brain fog hits, you fight sleep at your desk. Evening brings intense hunger and late-night snacking. Many with metabolic syndrome live this loop for years. The Glucose Goddess Method offers small shifts that fit into the same day, gradually smoothing each violent curve. The Glucose Goddess Method stands on 4 simple pillars. Change the order in which you eat foods, protect yourself with fiber, move your muscles after meals, and choose balanced breakfasts. None require counting every calorie or never tasting dessert again. Instead, they adjust the way your body receives sugar, slowing the entry so your system can handle it more gracefully. Before applying these ideas to your own condition, especially if you take glucose-lowering drugs, speak with your physician. Your stomach is like a cue at a concert. Whoever enters first shapes the experience of everyone behind. Studies show that if you eat vegetables and proteins before starches and sugars, your glucose spike can be significantly reduced. The fiber and proteins form a kind of gentle mesh, slowing sugar's absorption. So, eating the same meal in a different order can lead to a calmer glucose curve. This is one of the simplest tools for those with metabolic syndrome-like symptoms. Imagine a plate with grilled chicken, salad, and white rice. In version 1, you start with the rice, then eat the chicken, and finally a few salad leaves. In version 2, you begin with the salad, then the chicken, and only then the rice. The ingredients are identical, But under the microscope of your glucose monitor, the curves look very different. For those facing metabolic syndrome, such small rearrangements can quietly support better insulin sensitivity. Always tailor changes with your healthcare team. Fiber is like an invisible bodyguard standing at the gates of your intestine. It does not break down into sugar. Instead, it slows the passage of glucose from other foods. Vegetables, legumes, and some whole grains are rich in this protector. When you place them at the start of your meal, they form a gentle shield, blunting spikes. Many people with metabolic syndrome eat plenty of carbohydrates but little fiber. Increasing it can be a quiet revolution. Introduce changes gradually and discuss with your physician. Your muscles are powerful sugar sponges. When you move after eating, walking, light cleaning, climbing stairs, muscle cells open doors that welcome glucose inside, reducing the amount left floating in your blood. Studies show that even 10 to 15 minutes of easy movement can soften post-meal spikes. For those with metabolic syndrome, this can be a low-stress tool. You do not need intense workouts. You need consistency. If you have heart, joint, or other conditions, please ask your doctor what kind of movement is safe for you. Picture finishing dinner and immediately sinking onto the couch, phone in hand. Now imagine an alternative. You slip on shoes and walk slowly around your block for 10 minutes. In continuous glucose monitor data shared in the Glucose Goddess community, these tiny walks often flatten the after-dinner spike. To your brain, it may feel like a small choice. To your cells, it is a different future. If you have mobility limits, even standing leg movements or light chair exercises may help under medical guidance. Breakfast sets the stage for your entire day's glucose. A sweet, refined breakfast acts like a match, lighting a fire of spikes and crashes. The Glucose Goddess method encourages a savory, protein-rich, fiber-containing breakfast instead. Think eggs with vegetables, Greek yogurt with nuts, or tofu scramble with greens. This steadier beginning often reduces cravings and fatigue hours later. People with metabolic syndrome may find mornings especially important. Always check with your doctor or dietitian for individualized plans. Many of us grew up believing that fruit juice, cereal, and pastries were a normal breakfast. Yet for someone with metabolic vulnerabilities, this combination can create a huge morning spike, followed by a sharp plunge. That plunge releases adrenaline and cortisol, stress hormones that may make you feel shaky or anxious. Then cravings arrive. It is not a lack of discipline, it is chemistry. By simply transforming breakfast, the rest of your day's decisions can feel calmer and less forced. Imagine starting with a plate of sautéed spinach, 2 eggs cooked in olive oil, and a side of avocado, perhaps a small portion of low-sugar berries for color. This mix of protein, healthy fats, and fiber slows digestion and offers longer-lasting energy. Instead of crashing at 11 a.m., you may feel gently stable. For those with metabolic syndrome, this kind of breakfast can support better fasting glucose and hunger control. Adapt ingredients to your culture and health needs with professional advice. The Glucose Goddess method does not demand that you never touch sugar again. Instead, it offers ways to enjoy sweet things more safely. One principle is, never eat sugar on an empty stomach. Another, if you plan dessert, eat it after a meal rich in fiber, protein, and fat. And whenever possible, combine sweets with movement afterwards. These rituals help your body handle sugar with less chaos. If you have diabetes or medications, coordinate dessert decisions with your healthcare provider. One surprising tool in the Glucose Goddess toolbox is ordinary vinegar. Research suggests that a small amount of vinegar before a high-carb meal can reduce the glucose spike by slowing stomach emptying and increasing cells' sensitivity to insulin. A common suggestion is 1 tablespoon diluted in a large glass of water, consumed before eating. However, vinegar is acidic and may not be suitable for everyone, especially those with stomach issues or certain medications. Please consult your physician before adopting this habit. Biochemically, vinegar contains acetic acid, which appears to partially inhibit enzymes that break down carbohydrates and to slow their exit from the stomach. Some studies also suggest improved insulin sensitivity after vinegar ingestion. Imagine placing a gentle filter in front of a hose so water flows smoothly instead of bursting out. Yet this is not magic. It is one helper among many. For people with metabolic syndrome, vinegar should be a carefully considered tool, always under your doctor's supervision. Jesse often invites us to think of our bodies as gardens rather than machines. A machine is fixed by swapping parts. A garden thrives when conditions are gently improved. Light, water, soil. With metabolic syndrome, you may feel like your body has betrayed you. Yet when you adjust glucose, hormones, sleep, and stress, the soil can gradually change. The glucose goddess method is like learning when to water and when to prune, so that energy, mood, and weight begin to shift from the inside. Consider Maya, 48, whose doctor warned that her waistline and blood tests pointed toward metabolic syndrome. Her genes dug into her stomach. After lunch, she fell asleep at her desk. She tried strict diets, failed, and felt ashamed. When she found the glucose goddess method, she was skeptical. Could food order and short walks really matter? She decided to experiment for just 2 weeks, not to be perfect, but to observe. Her story may sound familiar and hopeful. At her favorite lunch spot, Maya always ordered a sandwich and fries. On day 1, she kept the same meal, but chose a side salad and ate it first, leaving some bread for last. She did not count calories or forbid foods. She simply obeyed the rule. Vegetables, proteins, then starch. That afternoon, she noticed something strange. She still felt sleepy, but less crushed. Her cravings at 3 p.m. were slightly quieter. It was not a miracle, but it was a signal worth following. Wearing a glucose monitor, Maya saw that her post-lunch spike shrank when she ate salad first. It was still there, but lower and smoother. Science supports her observation. Studies show that fiber-first meals can reduce both peak glucose and insulin release. For a body already resistant to insulin, this matters. Each smaller spike is like one less wave eroding a cliff. She realized that even without perfection, each lunch could become an act of repair. Your own data may one day tell a similar story. Glucose is not only about weight and lab numbers, it is about emotions. Spikes can be followed by lows that mimic anxiety or sadness, as the brain suddenly receives less fuel and stress hormones surge. Many with metabolic syndrome report irritability, panic-like sensations, or hopelessness tied to their eating patterns. When Maya's morning spikes decreased, she cried one afternoon, not from sadness, but from relief. Her mood swings softened. She realized that some of her personality was actually biology. Yet after 2 weeks, Maya faced a discouraging surprise. The scale barely moved. Her waist felt looser, her energy improved, but the number seemed stubborn. Many people with metabolic syndrome experience this. Internal changes outpace the scale. In frustration, she wondered, is this even working? Before giving up, she chose to look beyond weight, sleep, cravings, mood, lab results. The glucose goddess method teaches that healing often starts invisibly. What happened next changed her relationship with progress. Metabolism is not a single dial you turn down to slow or up to fast. It is the sum of countless processes: hormone balance, liver function, muscle mass, inflammation, sleep. When glucose spikes reduce, insulin levels may fall, fat storage signals quiet, and cells begin repairing. These changes may not instantly shrink the scale, but they set the stage for sustainable weight shifts. For metabolic syndrome, such internal victories are crucial. Lab numbers and how you feel may tell a deeper truth than kilograms alone. Insulin is a hormone that acts like a key, opening doors so glucose can enter cells. In insulin resistance, those doors become rusty, the key still turns, but less effectively. The body compensates by producing more insulin, shouting louder at the same doors. Over time, this constant shouting can exhaust the system and promote fat storage. Frequent glucose spikes can worsen this rust. By smoothing the spikes, the glucose goddess method may ease the pressure on your insulin keys. Medical monitoring is essential. Diet culture often teaches extremes, either perfect or a failure. The glucose goddess ethos is different. You are invited to become curious. What happens to my energy if I change breakfast? How does my sleep respond when I walk after dinner? This mindset shift, from self-punishment to experimentation, is powerful for metabolic syndrome, where long-term consistency matters more than short bursts of perfection. Each day becomes data, not a moral test. For medication or diagnosis decisions, your doctor remains the guide. When glucose crashes, the brain may receive emergency signals. We need quick sugar now. At that moment, resisting a cookie can feel nearly impossible. This is not a character flaw. Your physiology is shouting. By shaping glucose curves through food order, fiber, movement, and savory breakfasts, you reduce the number of such emergencies. In other words, you create an environment where willpower is less necessary. For someone with metabolic syndrome, compassion plus strategy is more effective than blame. Short sleep and chronic stress act like invisible hands pushing your glucose higher. When you sleep poorly, hormones that regulate hunger and fullness become imbalanced. Stress hormones make the liver release more glucose. This can worsen insulin resistance over time. The glucose goddess method acknowledges that food is one part of the puzzle. For those with metabolic syndrome, evening habits that support sleep and tools that reduce daily stress, breathing, journaling, gentle stretching, are not luxuries. They are metabolic medicine. Discuss sleep or stress concerns with your clinician. Imagine checking your phone in bed, scrolling through news and messages bathed in blue light. Your brain, confused, delays melatonin production, and sleep becomes shallow. For individuals with metabolic syndrome, this pattern can quietly raise fasting glucose and appetite the next day. The glucose goddess approach suggests designing a gentle, glucose-friendly evening. Lower lights, fewer screens, perhaps herbal tea instead of sugary snacks. These rituals speak directly to your hormones, cooling the inner fire. A common fear is, if I care about glucose, I will lose my social life. The glucose goddess method offers another path. Before a party, you might eat a small vegetable and protein snack at home so you do not arrive starving. At the event, you load your plate with salad and protein first, then tastes of starch and dessert. You savor, not restrict. Afterward, you dance or take a short walk. You protect your future health without abandoning joy. For complex medical needs, personalize these choices with your doctor. Liquid sugars are stealthy. Sodas, juices, sweetened coffees, and energy drinks deliver large amounts of glucose and fructose without fiber. They race into your bloodstream like a flood, causing sharp spikes. For those with metabolic syndrome, these beverages can be particularly damaging. The glucose goddess method encourages water, unsweetened tea or coffee with minimal sugar, and if you do drink something sweet, to have it with or after a meal, not alone. As always, adapt these shifts in discussion with your healthcare provider. Many sweetened drinks contain high amounts of fructose, a sugar primarily processed by the liver. Excessive fructose intake has been linked to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which often coexists with metabolic syndrome. Think of the liver as a busy warehouse. When too many boxes arrive at once, they pile up as fat. Reducing sugary drinks eases this overload. The glucose goddess method gently nudges you towards beverages that refresh without burdening your liver. For liver concerns, medical evaluation is vital. In modern supermarkets, sugar hides under many names: sucrose, high fructose corn syrup, maltose, dextrose, honey, syrups. Learning to read labels is like learning a new alphabet of self-defense. When you see multiple sugars high on the ingredient list, you can imagine the spike they may cause. The glucose goddess method does not say never, it says no. For someone with metabolic syndrome, this knowledge turns shopping from a trap into a form of self-care. For specific restrictions, follow your clinician's guidance. Without changing everything, you can gently upgrade fiber. Swap white bread for whole grain, add a handful of leafy greens or a side salad to your usual lunch, sprinkle seeds and nuts onto yogurt, or choose beans instead of extra rice. Each of these choices is like adding one more tiny shield against spikes. For those living with metabolic syndrome, gradual fiber increases may improve satiety and bowel health as well. Increase slowly and drink enough water, especially if you have gut conditions. Ask your doctor if unsure. Protein acts like an anchor in a meal. It slows digestion, supports muscle maintenance, and contributes to satiety. For those with metabolic syndrome, adequate protein can help prevent overeating and stabilize glucose by moderating how quickly carbs are absorbed. Options include fish, eggs, poultry, tofu, tempeh, lentils, yogurt, and more. The glucose goddess method encourages including a source of protein at each main meal. People with kidney disease or other conditions must individualize protein intake with their physicians. You do not need a gym membership to benefit from movement. The glucose goddess method celebrates everyday activity, walking to the store instead of driving, taking stairs instead of elevators, doing light squats while brushing your teeth, or organizing a 10-minute movement break after dinner with family. For metabolic syndrome, these frequent small bursts can significantly impact glucose handling and blood pressure. If you have cardiac, joint, or other conditions, ask your doctor which activities are safe and how to start. Perfection is fragile, reality is messy. The glucose goddess method embraces an 80-20 approach. If most of your meals and days follow glucose-friendly principles, your body still benefits, even if some choices are less ideal. For someone with metabolic syndrome, this gentler frame can prevent burnout. A slice of birthday cake at a celebration need not mean failure. It becomes part of the 20%, especially if you surround it with fiber, protein, and movement. Medical plans, however, may sometimes require stricter targets. Always follow your clinician's advice. After a month of applying the glucose goddess principles imperfectly but consistently, Maya noticed something small yet profound. Her afternoons no longer felt like quicksand. Previously at 3 p.m., her eyelids drooped, and each email felt like climbing a mountain. Now, she still felt human, sometimes tired, but not dragged under. For many with metabolic syndrome, this shift in daily energy is a first tangible sign that inner chemistry is changing. The body whispers before it shouts. Stable afternoons are one such whisper. As you experiment with glucose-friendly habits, medical monitoring becomes a partner. Regular blood tests, blood pressure checks, and conversations with your physician help track how your metabolic markers respond. Some people may safely reduce medications under supervision. Others may need additional treatment. The glucose goddess method is not a replacement for medical care. It is a lifestyle tool that can complement it. Always discuss any significant dietary or activity changes with your healthcare team, especially if you use insulin or other glucose-lowering drugs. Living with metabolic syndrome can feel like walking uphill in sand. Progress is slow, footprints quickly erased. On days when you feel stuck, remember that glucose habits work cumulatively. Today's fiber, today's 10-minute walk, today's savory breakfast, all send quiet messages to your cells. We are safe. You can heal. The glucose goddess method encourages celebrating each small choice rather than waiting for a dramatic transformation. Slowness does not mean failure. It often means the change is real and sustainable. There will be days when you skip the walk, eat cake before dinner, or stay up too late. For someone with metabolic syndrome, such days can trigger fear. Have I undone everything? Biology does not work in such absolutes. One spike does not erase weeks of calmer curves. The glucose goddess spirit invites you to observe, learn, and move forward without self-attack. Ask, what led to this choice? What might I change next time? For severe symptoms or repeated setbacks, seek guidance from your medical team. Round the world, people share their glucose graphs and stories in the glucose goddess community. Parents juggling work, older adults reversing prediabetes, young people managing PCOS, and mood swings. Metabolic syndrome can feel lonely, but you are walking a path many others have walked. Seeking support, online groups, friends, family, or local classes can make change more sustainable. While each person's medical situation is unique, emotional solidarity helps us continue when willpower fades. Never hesitate to bring your questions to a qualified healthcare professional. Let us imagine a glucose goddess day for someone with metabolic syndrome. Morning, a savory breakfast with protein and fiber, and maybe coffee with minimal sugar. Lunch, vegetables and protein first, then starch, followed by a 10-minute walk. Afternoon, water or unsweetened tea instead of sugary drinks. A protein-rich snack if needed. Dinner, similar food order, perhaps a vinegar drink beforehand if approved by your doctor, then light movement. Evening, dim lights, less screen time, supportive sleep. This is not a rigid script, but a template you can adapt. 3 months after starting her experiments, Maya returned to her doctor. Her weight had decreased modestly, but more importantly, her waist circumference, fasting glucose, and triglycerides had improved. Her blood pressure had softened. The doctor asked, "What have you changed?" She answered, "I changed how, not just what, I eat, and I walk after meals." This conversation does not guarantee the same results for everyone, but it illustrates how daily glucose-friendly habits can echo in medical data. Always pursue such changes with professional oversight. You do not need to apply every glucose goddess habit at once. Instead, choose one gentle experiment for the coming week, perhaps a savory, protein-rich breakfast every day, or a 10-minute walk after your largest meal, or always eating vegetables first at lunch and dinner. Treat your body like a curious laboratory, not a battlefield. Note how your energy, cravings, and mood respond. If you have medical conditions, especially diabetes, heart disease, or kidney disease, share your plan with your physician first. If you live with metabolic syndrome symptoms, you may have wondered, is it too late for me? Glucose science says the body is remarkably adaptable. Even after years of spikes, improvements in diet, movement, sleep, and stress can enhance insulin sensitivity and reduce risk. Each smoother glucose curve is like a small message to your future self. I care about you. The Glucose Goddess Method offers tools. You supply the courage. For medical decisions and individualized risk evaluation, please partner with your healthcare team. As we come to the end of this journey through the Glucose Goddess Method, consider this an invitation, not an obligation. You are invited to test how changing food order, embracing fiber, moving after meals, and choosing grounded breakfasts affect your unique body. You are invited to replace shame with science, punishment with curiosity. Especially if you suspect metabolic syndrome, please discuss these ideas with your physician so your experiment sits safely beside your medical plan. Your body has been speaking. Now you can answer with kindness. If this video has given you even one gentle idea for easing your metabolic symptoms, I warmly invite you to stay connected. Please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it with someone who may be silently struggling with metabolic syndrome. In the comments, tell us which glucose goddess habit you would like to experiment with first. And before making any major dietary or lifestyle changes, especially if you take medications, please consult your physician. Your next small step can become a turning point.